So let's talk a little bit about the Ferguson situation. My understanding, and certainly you intervene at any point if I'm off track here, but from my understanding, the gentleman had gone to a store and purchased a pack of
Cigarillos.
cigarillos.
He allegedly, from what I've heard also, he allegedly, I'm sorry, stolen or strong-arm robbed some cigarettes. Because I guess they used to do something else with.
Right.
But that has absolutely nothing to do, I feel, with the encounter with Officer Wilson later on.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because that's how I see it. Because I thought it was pretty interesting how they waited. Remember, they didn't even announce who the officer was. They didn't give us his name. They waited. But what they did do is show us that footage
Yes.
of him in that store, as if to paint a picture in our minds already of what you got here, and as if that's going to justify him being gone. That's how I looked at it.
I'm sure Wilson had some previous history there where he may have been upset or mad about something, not necessarily going in a store and strong-arming a citizen, but he could have been upset about something, who knows, prior to it.
Absolutely.
But that issue was not, just like I said, that issue is not in the forefront. I feel the incident between Officer Wilson and Mr. Brown occurred at that vehicle. From the
Okay.
beginning of this incident, should be noted from the vehicle. Which I feel was wrong of Mr. Wilson. After the shots fired from the vehicle, if there was an encounter at the vehicle, at the door, if Officer Wilson had reason to fire his weapon at that door, if in fact Brown was leaning in, which I can't understand, he wanting to get inside a police vehicle with his head, he's 300 and some pounds, there's nothing he can do but get hit in the mouth with a gun or something. But you can't take an officer's weapon unless the officer is presenting that weapon
Right.
at the door for you to get. Most departments, I know, since for the last 15, 20 years, have been issuing lock holsters, whereas your gun cannot even be pulled from your weapon, from that holster, unless there's a mechanism activated that releases that gun from that holster. From what it appears, Wilson was right-handed, so that means it was his gun was the furthest side of the door, the driver's door.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, Officer Wilson presented that gun at the door frame.
Okay.
Why? I would not know. But when you present a gun, just as I had mentioned earlier, you put a gun up to someone's body and it's not warranted at that time, usually that person is going to push it away or direct it in another. Unless you had reason to pull the trigger, you should have been firing before.
Right.
So when the first two shots went off and Brown was hit, from my understanding and from every account I've heard, Brown fled. Once fleeing, again, very few departments, if any, that I know of in the continental United States allow an officer to shoot a fleeing felon unless that person has a weapon or is possibly heading to do some harm to someone else.
Right. And he did not have a weapon.
He did not have a weapon, and he's wounded. Another thing that I've noticed in hearing a lot of other people speak on this, because I wasn't there, and the evidence once presented, I hear the news media speak on it, they seem to skip the part where Wilson exits the vehicle and starts shooting. There are witnesses that I've heard state that Wilson exited the vehicle continuously firing his weapon. If Brown was shot 6 times, 6 or 5, and one being the first shot, that leaves either 5 more or 4 more. Mm-hmm. And 12 rounds was fired, and he was hit 5 times. That leaves 6 rounds unaccounted for, 4, a number of rounds unaccounted for.
Right.
Those rounds that are unaccounted for were not fired from the vehicle, from inside the vehicle.
Mhm.
They were fired outside of the vehicle.
Right. My understanding is there were 2 that were fired while he was in the vehicle,
Right.
striking the thumb, and then 1 missing him altogether.
Right, that's 2. And he's hit either 5 or 6 times. That's 8, leaving 4 rounds unaccounted for.
Okay.
And my contention is if once Wilson exited that vehicle, Brown's running away, Wilson's firing. As you stated in your introduction, I am a hunter. And I've been out in the woods where I've had a deer in my scopes, about 200, 300 yards. And I'm not the best shot in the world. I've never claimed to be an expert shot, but I fired at this deer. And the deer knew I was firing at him, so he started moving. He started moving, and I knew, oh, well, I better aim a little bit better. Fire again. Still missed again on the deer. But what the deer did, instead of continuous moving, the deer stopped. When that deer stopped, I was really able to put my sights on him then. And what do you have? A dead buck. So my contention is once Wilson got out of that vehicle and began firing at Brown, missing,
Right.
Brown figured, hey, one of these is going to catch up with me eventually. You know, one of these is possibly going to catch me, so I'd better stop. And unfortunately, as he stopped, my contention, and tried to turn around, he was shot.
Yeah, I totally agree with you with that scenario, especially the example you gave with the buck. That would only be the common sense thing to do when you're in that situation would be stop. And there are some witnesses that say that his hands did indicate no weapons.
There were witnesses that said that he was possibly shot in the back.
Right. Head shots as well. But let me ask you this. With that situation, and just from your training, when he stepped out of the vehicle and Mr. Brown started running, shouldn't he have called for backup or something?
Should have called for backup, and he should have holstered his weapon. If he was unsure Brown was armed, of course you keep your weapon in your hand.
Right.
But not getting a return, once you fire twice at someone at that close range, if they had a weapon, I feel they either run and they're either going to try and discard it or turn back and start firing back on you.
Absolutely.
I'm almost convinced Mr. Brown, Mr. Wilson knew Mr. Brown didn't have a weapon. Of course, he was wearing shorts, from my understanding, a loose t-shirt, tank shirt,
Flip-flops
or something. And you could see him running. I mean, if he's running, then he was able to aim and hit him at the distance they finally came to. Of course, I think Mr. Wilson made up a little space too, a little distance in that running too.
I would think.
Which is never mentioned, but it's always mentioned that Brown came back towards Wilson, which is highly, unless he's trying to say, hey man, you shot me, why are you still shooting? That's the only reason I could, fathom him wanting to turn and confront Wilson, who's firing at him. Why are you shooting at me? We weren't there, of course.
Exactly.
Of course, you've got the witnesses, everybody's ducking for cover. You've got somebody out here firing 12 rounds. Everybody's going to duck and run and not stand there and look at them. So of course you got that option for you.
Right.
You got people scared. You got people ducking. So when you ask the question, if they hadn't seen, they think they may have seen everything, but then again, they're trying to save it. Just like the guy that was with Mr. Brown. He said he ran to hide and duck.
Absolutely.
So he fled too. Now, people are already responding to the area for the call, allegedly, of the incident in the store, so he knew there were backup coming. There were other people coming.
Okay.
So I just think that was a slut to Trayvon Martin shooting. I don't think it was justified. I don't think, and just be honest with you, I do not think the Wilson case should have been cleared of that.
No, I'm total agreement with you, and I can pretty much confidently say that there are millions of Americans out there that agree as well.